This conference will now be recorded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Calling this meeting to order. This is the canvass for the May primary. We have a quorum. Amy is not here, but she's expected in about 10 minutes, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. The first order of business is to take a look at the canvass results.
And we actually, on yesterday, for anybody, because we had computer problems and didn't get to continue videoing, we did do the provisional meeting and the supplemental absentee meeting on yesterday. So we added 22 provisionals that were counted to the totals, and also 109 supplemental absentees that came in timely. So those were added, and the board signed all the documents for that. So we uploaded the results. So a finalized canvas this morning, and then you'll need to sign these reports and send them to the state. And Chance will have the spreadsheet posted probably Tuesday, maybe, or Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Because I know you gotta put all that stuff in there.
The spreadsheet will show us
The final.
by precinct results.
Yes, and also you can see that on the website. Our canvas has been finalized, we have final results in, so everything has been official. Okay. We have official results. These are the three reports we have to turn in: the primary results by precinct, and also the primary results by contest. And then of course you'll do the abstract of those. And then each board member needs to sign this. Copy will go to the clerk of court and then to the state board, and we remain a copy here in the office. Okay. And of course, this will finalize everything once we do that, and then we'll send those reports in. Then we'll move to the next election, I guess. Yeah.
Does anybody want to look at
These reports,
any of these materials?
they have, kind of, I think it has just one total. Actually, it doesn't even do it on the total, it just shows you by precinct how many votes each, candidate got by precinct. It doesn't give you like a grand total of how many votes. And I don't have those results up, but I can go get the total for you if you want to know how many people voted in this election. I'll have to pull it up. Can you pull it up on your phone, the results?
I know it's a 27% turnout, Chatham.
Yeah.
It's 20% for the state.
So our map is purple now, so we're finalized and we're done. So I'm gonna pass these so everybody can sign them.
I just want to make sure everybody is comfortable.
I had the results on the computer right here. Yeah, the state board website. So okay. Okay, so we had over 16,220 votes are cast.
Hold on a second, I'm sorry, I wasn't right.
All right.
16,000.
220,
That's exactly right. That's what's on the report.
which is, like Lori said, 27.71% turnout.
27 point what?
71.
Plus 28%.
Yeah. Which I think is good considering a primary. And do you want me to read? Is that everything we want to do? You want me to go by contest? Okay.
Wait, can we just print it out?
Yeah, we can do
We'll
that.
get it for you after the meeting. Do you need it right now?
No, well, I'm just curious, so.
Yeah, let me see what I was about to print it out.
It'll probably take a minute to figure out how to print that thing off.
If it's, okay.
You know, can you print from here?
You should be.
Let me go see if I can print it.
Let's see.
Let me go see if I can print it. You can't. You're right on the network.
But this report right here breaks it down by, election day, one stop, and absentee by mail and provisional. So
He
you
went
can
to
see
Champ
how many
County.
people
He's
voted
good at the state.
I did right
for
here.
each,
It's right here.
candidate.
Okay. So I'd like to get a copy of that too.
Is that what you're passing out?
Now, this is what goes, this is a copy for the office, a copy for the state, and a copy, but you can look at these.
We can pass
Yes,
this
That's the
around.
abstract?
Yes, these are the primary results, by precinct. And this is just about the contest.
All right. This is the total.
No, these are total.
This is election day, one stop, six
It
early
says by
voting,
precinct. That's
absentee
printed
ballot,
off the state.
provisional.
It says
So,
by precinct, but I don't know what precinct.
Right.
It's, I mean, it says right here, total, so I think,
so this total is add up all
Let's
that.
see it.
Yeah.
Senate.
And House of Rep.
It doesn't say what-
It doesn't tell you which precinct.
It doesn't.
Court of
That's the name of the
Appeals.
report. That one's by contest.
Yeah.
So,
So these
so
are,
do you have precinct totals
these are the
anywhere?
same.
This isn't
Well,
very
these
useful.
are by precinct.
Well, it goes to
This
the
must be
state.
front
I don't know
page.
why they printed it off like this, but,
See,
It
this
says,
is by
the thing
candidate.
we got last night probably has that
Oh,
on
it's
it.
candidate.
It's by precinct.
And
it just
it's
says
by
total, it
precinct.
doesn't say.
Oh, it says total. right
Precinct.
there.
It doesn't have
And
precinct.
then,
Oh,
it
by
goes,
precinct.
then it
That's
goes to
precinct.
precinct.
Primary election
Look,
results by
because
contest,
precinct here.
primary by precinct.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay, so it
precinct.
switches. So that's cool.
Yeah, so this is the,
It's
this
by
is gonna be the total,
the thing
county
that voted.
vote
Let me just go
total.
get the report.
And then this
Yeah, I
will be
think
for
Or
each
either-
precinct.
Do we
So it
just
should be
need to
16.
get,
Yeah,
some kind of report to show you,
I think so.
because it's hard to find. I mean, it's hard to get it right now, because we have to get it out of that thing right there.
Oh,
That's gonna
this is
show
candidate
it.
again.
yeah, so it's a different precinct.
By
Well,
precinct.
I think particularly since two people
So,
were here yesterday.
This is
not being
actually
able to look at the
technically
numbers
still
is-
There you go.
Bynum, and then it moves to all.
Oh, I see.
I mean, they're looking at what we gotta turn in. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what else they need to
It's the
see.
number
What else do I
designates.
need to bring? I don't know
Yeah,
what to show.
so Yeah. 30 is
Oh.
Hickory Mountain.
Well-
Because we didn't print anything off yesterday. We printed that.
Almost 10 years.
Where do you see Hickory Mountain?
Right
She
here,
says
so
Number 30.
these are by precinct, the
Yeah.
top sheet is the total, so that's all of Chatham County.
Oh,
And then you go to.
Oh, you gotta know the codes.
Yes, so so this precinct is Bynum, 15 is Bynum, 3 is
oh,
Albright,
I see.
30 is Hickory Mountain,
Oh, okay.
42 is Happy.
Pandora, Pandora shows this on the document by
It
precinct.
turns out it is on the document. First they show the total and then they break it down by precinct.
75.
And this is the report we had yesterday. I think.
West Williams, I don't remember.
I've got some stuff in the office right now. I don't know what-
You have to know, this is the Siler City,
Yeah, you gotta look at the numbers.
Yeah.
and then that's Bond Lane. Yeah, Bond Lane
114.
is East Siler City. East
ESC.
Siler, yeah.
And then the one
Is
by
it
content.
GDL?
And that's Goldston, so that one's changed, that used to be 18, now it's 118. Because we got rid
So
of
this
the
just
one.
shows total votes.
Here's
for
yours,
each
yeah.
contest.
Contest, yes.
Non-cure, that's a new one.
Pandora, I will need a copy of that later on so I can enter my spreadsheet. I'm gonna use that too.
They're printing off some results in there,
See,
Stuff.
Okay.
yeah,
Good stuff.
a bunch of stuff.
so no,
But yeah,
So these are total results by contest.
Yeah,
okay,
They're printing the results off.
are they? So there we go. So that's how you read that.
Just don't get them mixed up, please.
No, I'm gonna put the thing back.
Because I gotta mail it to, I gotta mail it out, yeah.
Now,
all right, my man.
what is this?
These are.
Purple means we made it official.
Thank you, Donald.
Purple means you made it.
This is off the website.
I don't need
If you go to the state board website.
You can go to our website and get it too.
So these are all the contests.
It has some
Yes.
really neat, ways on there that you can see things. If you go to the, just click on the contest, it'll show you how the precincts voted for that contest on that, yeah, on the website.
So, question for you, Chance. I think I heard you say 20% turnout for the state.
I didn't, Lori said
I
that,
said that.
yeah.
I saw that on the state website.
It was 27% turnout for Chatham County.
Got it.
Almost
And
20.
So do you have the votes cast for state?
We can find that, let's see,
And I'd like to have that filled out.
let's see. 1,429,681. It
And
is actually, yeah, if you round it off, it's 20% turnout.
that's 20% of the, state voters voted.
Yes,
And 27% of Chatham voters vote.
that's right.
Okay. Well, anybody have any further questions about the numbers? You prepared to sign the canvas? Do you have any questions about the process by which we got to these numbers?
And, I'll just explain this. At the meeting yesterday in, I guess two precincts, East Siler City and also East Williams, which both have municipalities that were voting in the primary. There were, a couple of voters that were identified who did not get the correct ballot. So, what they did, their ballots went into the tabulator. So they called back and said they did not get correct ballot. They were instructed to go back. They were canceled on the social machine, and then they did a provisional. So yesterday we counted their provisional ballot, and we also deducted those totals from, those candidates of the ballots that went into the machine. So we had to do, when we did the manual edits, we had to print a copy of the results before the edits, which we have this right here. Everybody present, all the board members and the staff signed the copy. We looked at the ones before and we looked at the after the edits to make sure that the edits were made. This one has where the edits were made, and this is the audit log for the Verity count to show every change that's been made in that, and we all signed this.
And this audit log starts at the very beginning of this primary with every activity in the Verity system, from putting in the thumb drives on election night and all that stuff is in there, every single activity. And it includes, the step-by-step subtraction of the votes that needed to be taken out so that the provisional could be counted. It shows every single one of those steps.
And just to say, in Siler City, there were 3 residences that were not in the municipality, and also there in East Williams was a couple of roads. We have corrected those errors, and before we made the correction, we identified every voter that was affected by that and sent a list to the polling place and the early voting site to alert them if they did come in to vote, that the poll workers were to vote them provisionally. But a lot of them didn't show up. We only had a couple voters to show up, but this has been rectified.
So it's gonna happen during early voting because we were able to catch up.
Yes.
And it's worth pointing out, this happens all the time. If
Yeah,
there's a geocoding error that has to be,
Yeah, especially when redistricting happens.
yeah.
But that stuff's over here too, if you want to look at that. This is the provisional where we approved them, tallied them, and had the totals here of all the provisionals.
Does anybody want to look at anything they haven't seen? You good?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask for some copies when we're done of, this thing, which is the precincts, and then the audit log that we were talking about from yesterday.
You got a copy of that?
Audit log.
The thing that had all the Verity changes and everything.
Can you get that?
You can certainly inspect it here at the.
Yeah, at the office. I don't know if it's something that needs to be out in the. We'll find out. Yeah. So you ready to sign this?
Yes. Yes.
There's 3 copies, so you'll need to sign each copy.
This does not require a motion, does it?
You just sign that you're certifying the votes.
Can I use a blue pen or do I need to use a black pen?
That don't matter to me.
Okay. I know I can't use a purple or green pen, that's why I was asking.
What color did everybody else use?
Black.
Mine is black.
Black, be uniform. I think this pen writes black.
Well, that green pen right there writes black, Amy.
I know. I'm particular about my ink. I know, what can I say?
Well, at least you got one of each.
Yes, I do. It's a small one.
I guess one thing we could say for anybody that's listening is that the final results, the addition of the provisionals and the supplementals did not change any of the winners and losers of the primary. Those results stayed the same. The numbers are a little different, but
The percentages didn't change. And we'll possibly have a runoff for Cary Town at large seat, July 26th.
and when will we know about that?
When he brings the letter, when the candidate brings the letter to the Wake County Board of Elections.
And how long does he have to do that?
I think Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
And refresh my memory, is it a close race? Is there, that would be not a protest, but rather
It's a runoff.
a runoff?
Neither candidate,
Well,
got enough
Cary,
votes.
It has to be 4% or 1%?
in Cary's instance, Cary's municipal elections are nonpartisan with runoff. So they'll have a runoff if it's close. Doesn't matter.
How close do you know?
I don't think it.
Oh, it has to be over, that the candidate has to get over 50% or not to be a runoff.
50 plus 1%.
Yeah.
58% plus 1 vote.
Yeah, so one candidate gets over 50%. They had 4 candidates running, and 2 of them got 30. One got 38%. One got 36%.
I see.
It's automatic.
And in the event for
Well,
Siler City, I think they have.
Not necessarily,
Oh, it's
no.
not automatic?
No. The candidate has to take a handwritten letter to the Wake County Board of Elections asking for a runoff.
What's the White County?
Lake County.
Wake County,
Yeah.
pardon me.
Laura, what happens now? We're gonna know Tuesday.
Yes, we should know. Tuesday.
Okay, then what procedure follows for us?
We'll just plan this election just like all the other elections, and then, well, today, we will probably talk about, early voting site and an early voting plan, just in the event if when he makes the request, we'll already have that plan in place, because it's gonna be due, I think, next Thursday or Friday.
Yeah,
Check not number 3.
number 3 on the agenda. Don't get ahead of
We're gonna
it.
get
Okay.
there. Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to that.
And when do we anticipate, if this is established, when is the event and when are the voting days? Is it
That's what we're
early
gonna
vote?
talk later.
Oh, pardon me.
Number 3 on the agenda.
I see.
I don't even know the dates.
Everybody signed?
Yes,
Make
it's
a-
all
I'm gonna
signed.
make a sheet, and I didn't get a chance to do it.
Okay, so everybody has signed the canvas.
Look up the calendar. On your phone.
The next item on the agenda is an after-action review of the election, what worked, what didn't work, what can be done better. I think we have an opportunity to look at the incident reports that were filed by poll workers that chronicled any issues that came up during the election period. And we can also talk about any other issues that you noticed or were concerned about, or that you thought were
No problem.
excellent.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about what worked first?
Okay, and then, okay.
So what worked? Overall.
I think it's a lot of work, but I think that having 5 sites And having that site up in Apex is actually, I mean, I think that's a good thing. I think it really took a lot of pressure off of the North Chatham site. And I think especially during the presidential election, this is a lot of people coming out there. That's and for those folks that live in Cary and Apex, to get all the way over to Briar Chapel, that's always been a long drive for them as well.
And especially since the Briar Chapel site is
Yeah, so,
congested anyway.
yeah, and will be, for the November election.
So I have a question about that, and that is the venue, which is the East Williams is a Baptist church venue, right? There's a Baptist church, and then just south of that in New York, that's a second church. Is that true? These are,
College Chapel, AME Zion Church.
so these are the early voting site, which is East Williams, is a private church, private property. Whereas Chatham County Community College is public property. And so to me, private property is more difficult to access. But this Baptist church organization is very compliant, and they help and they cooperate, and it's gonna be reliable to get it in the future, you think?
I think so. I haven't talked to.
Because they could reject.
Oh, any of them could, just like all the churches we have for election day.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have several churches for election day.
Well, I mean, at one point we were a third of churches.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to move into schools.
Yeah, that's why, do we have a school up in that area? We could,
No, you all asked about the fire department up there at one point, right?
No fire department. We just got out of.
Right, no.
No, we're in trouble. See, if East Williams, if that Baptist church says, can't do it anymore, then what do we do?
We look for another place.
We look for another place.
And we have no schools over there in East Williams,
Nope.
any public buildings?
Not right in that facility. I mean, they have a school, but.
Because it works great.
School is over there.
There's a New Hope,
We can't do a
yeah.
school for early voting.
We don't want
We,
to do a
we
school
tie up,
for
we tie up a gym.
Um,
days for early voting.
Yes.
I had the dates for early voting if you would like them. So early voting would begin July 7th and end on July 23rd.
Wait a minute, what?
That would begin July 7th.
And it ends the 23rd?
Yes.
July 7th through July 23?
And then election day would be the 26th.
Yes.
And what day would canvass be?
We're gonna have the workers
I
available.
don't know. Probably.
During that.
It'd probably be August 4th.
We'll work
I'm
it.
thinking August 4th.
Okay.
We'll work the early voting here at the office. The staff will work it.
Oh,
It's not busy.
Anyway, let's get back to the incident.
Yeah.
To the review of this election. Okay. Okay, so Amy, you were just praising having the 5 early voting sites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Right.
think we're at the point where we really do need at least 2 up in North Chatham, northeastern Chatham.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
And then I brought up their private organizations, but they've been very helpful to us.
Right.
Hopefully that
Yes.
won't change.
Okay. It seemed to me that the election, by and large, went off just fine. I'd be hard pressed to find issues with the administration of the election that were a problem. This is a fine-tuned machine, this election office.
It was, kind of weird though, moving the dates and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a lot of
maneuvering
moving
around,
parts.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought it went very well. And, I found the workers did outstanding job. Very enthusiastic doing what they had to do, even though it was kind of slow.
Yeah.
But, I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say one thing for the record that I don't know the answer to, and I'll just throw it out for the board. We had one disciplinary action that we tidied up with one worker regarding COVID disciplinary action. That was during early voting. And the board was asked to participate. So my question to the board is, did we have jurisdiction as voting members to intervene on early voting? Why? We don't select those people. They're selected by the director, not by the board members. Yet we participated in a disciplinary action. Now, election day, we definitely participated, but this was
election day also.
a county employee.
This was an election day worker as well.
It was both.
Yes.
Yes.
It was both. It was like the last 3 or 8 days of early voting, which was a county employee, which we don't participate in. And then election day, we do participate.
No, you don't, but you kind of participate because we select them. But, if there was a disciplinary action with one of us, you would be involved as a county employee. The board would be involved because of,
We're supervisor for you.
yes, and also the staff. If I have somebody that I'm gonna discipline or, have a conversation, I would still bring it to you before I make any type of final decision about the dismissal or whatever. So, I probably could have handled it, on my own, but I wouldn't have been able to handle the election day part.
Exactly, right, so it
So-
still would have come to us as an
Yeah.
election day issue. Right. So we still would have had to have,
We did more than an election day issue. We did the last 3 days of early voting disciplinary action. And I'm not criticizing, but I'm just bringing up, did we have the jurisdiction? I don't know the answer to that question.
Versus the county handling it, you mean like
The last 3 days of early voting.
the human resource
It's a
person?
memorandum.
Now, we had the human resource person in the room at the time.
Yeah,
And with the memorandum of understanding we have with the county, you had the authority,
okay.
that gave you the authority.
So this may come up again, this may be something we want Paul Cox to weigh in on. Because I thought it went real well, and I engaged, just like everybody else, the other members in this room, but I started thinking about it after.
There's a memorandum of understanding with HR that states that HR is to assist the county board of elections in issues like this, but the ultimate authority falls on the board. That's what the.
Or
that's what the-
temporary county employees
Yes.
hired to work in the election
Yes,
office.
for anything board of elections related, whether
They're
it's
not hired-
temporary,
they're not
whether
hired
it's
to work in
hiring
the county.
temporary employees, anything like that. HR assists us in the hiring, and if there's any disciplinary issues to that whole process, the memorandum of understanding states that HR is to assist us, but they are not the ones that make the ultimate decisions. That's up to the board.
And you have a piece of paper
There's a
that says that.
memorandum of understanding that says
Yes.
that, yes, we have that with the county.
So
So everything that was done, and this last time was done properly, following the procedures on the memorandum of understanding. We brought in HR, they gave us their opinion, they gave us a suggestion based on if it was an actual county employee, what would happen. But like Carolyn, when she was there, the authority was left for the board to make a decision on what they wanted to be done with the employee.
And I thought we did real well.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, did we have the
We
authority
did,
to do what we
yes.
did?
Yes,
We did on election day, no doubt, but those
You
last.
also did on the other one too.
He can show you the MOU if you want to see it.
Yes, we have. It was misfortunate.
Well, it comes with the territory.
Yes.
We had to do, the other thing I thought went real well is I observed you educating, instructing, organizing, scheduling about, I don't know, 100 employees? I don't know. how many workers
150.
you had.
Yes, more than that.
150.
That's a big jump. And nobody sees that. Nobody at the county commission sees that. Except, and I've gone to some of your sessions and I thought it was well done. And that's why during election sites, early voting sites work like a Swiss watch with the exception of one hiccup with one employee. It was well done.
Thank you.
Here, here.
We had the 5 sites, the only thing is, of course, we had Sunday voting. Of course, Sunday voting in a primary, of course, it was gonna be slow, so we got a chance to see how that works, but then, and we haven't done it in a general, which will be in November, so, I don't know if it would be more people coming out to vote, but it was slow, for this, to me, for this election.
Well, I sort of feel like it would be a good test
Yeah.
to run it in the general,
I
and
think
if
then
we
we have a-
continue just to have,
Yes.
you know, inconsequential turnout, then we can
And it,
make maybe Sunday voting
and
doesn't work here.
it may be, you know, in the different parts of the county where it's more people that vote, and then you have some who only have 2 voters on Sunday. I mean, that's,
I'd also like for us to look at if we are gonna look at it, to look at the weekends that it's gonna be, because I feel like
oh,
we had Mother's Day come up. Who wants to vote on Mother's Day?
I
No.
did.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I'm just saying, like, I think that that's an important consideration. Like, whether or not we need to go for both Sundays or just one Sunday. Or
Yeah, it is. We didn't have any issues with the poll workers complaining about working, so that wasn't a big issue, but I get what you're saying about being Mother's Day.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, you know.
And that would be the biggest thing would be what people work.
Yeah.
Is that-
Or, you know, whatever, just,
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know, sometimes, I mean, I have to look at the calendar all the time and figure out, are people gonna come to something based on the date and what else is going on?
Yeah.
And project that out, so.
Yeah, there's always the tension between being as consistent as possible about what we're doing and, you know, trying to maximize the number of voters that come on a particular day. And, you know, one thing we have to think about with Sunday voting is if, you know, you only have one Sunday where there's voting and then the other 2 Sundays are, the other Sunday you don't, that's just one more fact people have to remember when they're trying to figure out when they're gonna vote. It just gets confusing. So, anyway, all to be talked about later.
It's a-
I thought one thing that went well, we're having Verity prints on election day at 10 of the precincts. That worked pretty
Yes.
well.
Yes, I got to see some of those in action, and that certainly seemed like that helped cut down on potential wrong ballot
Mhm.
issues or people receiving the wrong ballot on election day.
I'd like to give a shout out to to our new tech people.
I was gonna say the
It
same,
seems like
Austin and Sarah, yes.
They've really learned the job, and from meeting Carla here at every moment, she's not, I mean, the new people are doing fine, and they're great to work with, and I've enjoyed their helpfulness and good temper and
Yeah.
abilities.
They also help with our geocode too.
Yeah.
So, refresh my memory, they are county employees?
They are in the GIS department, which is
Okay.
part of MIS. which is-
And so is the plan going forward to use them
They
in
just,
addition to Carla, or is Carla?
I think Carla's not gonna go, not gonna be in the picture,
Okay,
so it's just gonna be them. And then, they do all of our geocoding for us,
okay.
entering the roads and all that, so. So we have a lot in there to clean up, so.
Educate me, how many Verity printers, we had 16 precincts, and we didn't have Verity printers at all of them.
At 10 of them.
10 of the
10
16.
of them.
Yeah.
Prints.
And why did we have them at 10, but not all 16? Was some busier than others, or was more complicated than others? What was the?
Yeah.
All of them are, we put them on the busier sites. We only have 20 Verity prints, and we can't, we always like to have one regular one and one backup, in case one fails, the other one can go, and there's not enough to go around. There would be enough to go around the county if we just had one Verity print. But the problem having one Verity print on is if it fails, you don't have.
Or you had a backup at each of the 10
Each
sites?
of those 10 sites had backups to them.
Yeah.
So that's why you did 10, because you had 20.
Well, and there were some sites that were potentially having to deal with more than
Multiple
one,
ballots.
multiple
Yes.
ballot styles, so
There were 4
having-
sites with that, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, which ones were those? That was East Siler,
East
Siler?
William.
East Williams, East Siler.
West Siler, and you have,
Yeah.
4 precincts.
And so the printers give you an advantage at a complex.
Yeah, because all they have to do is scan the application,
And
the
mark
printer
it.
knows automatically what ballot to print out.
So the more complex the ballots,
Yeah.
the more
Right.
you want a printer at that site.
yes.
In November, we're only gonna have one style, all precincts are gonna have one style. So obviously, the smaller precincts that, don't have many, 400 or 500, or whatever it is, you really don't need that very print there, you can just give them packs and go from
Yeah.
there. But the bigger precincts, it helps with the environment, not cutting down trees and all that, because, all of these leftover ballots that we have, they go straight to the shredder.
So we still have to have a certain amount.
We have
of
to have a
backup
certain amount of
ballots.
backups, yeah.
So the printer, you scan the code and the printer knows
It
the
scans the
ballot.
application, it automatically knows, it puts the precinct
Or
on there.
complex.
The
Yeah,
poll worker doesn't have to do anything but verify that it's the right precinct and ballot stuff, and hit the print button, and then the printer will print out.
So at the 6 sites that did not have a printer, you had a simpler ballot, you could predict that you weren't gonna have all the complexity.
Yes. It was smaller and simpler.
Yeah.
It had one Republican, one Democratic ballot, and that's it.
Because East Siler had 14 ballots now.
There's a city election, a municipal, and a county.
It's difficult,
and a
yes.
State senator.
Yeah.
Wow.
so you wanna,
See, that's something that people, just printing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
coding.
If we're able to get more varied prints, then it would be nice to just eventually go to all precincts, having that printer there, and that way that way we order just enough backup ballots in case they go down to have things operational, but there's no need for it. Because that's another process, and Pandora will testify, that having to go figure out how many ballots to get for every single precinct in each style and all that, it can be.
End up with way too many.
Well, if you have your own printer, we have plenty of paper, you just put the paper in.
See, this is good, this is voting administration fine tuning. Man,
Trying to figure out how to
where's
save
the
money.
complex place? How many ballots we need? Do we use a scanner? Do we not use a scanner?
Because we initially had gotten the,
Yeah.
varied prints for early voting sites,
Yeah,
right?
that's why we originally got this, right?
Yeah.
This is for early voting.
And you see, the county commissioners don't know this very story we just.
no. I have a couple of comments that were presented to me at Crossroads, and I think I'd like to bring it up. One of the things or really what it was about, and I don't know if it's possible for us to do this or not. There was a lot of sentiment that they wish that it had been named like Crossroads-Bennett, or there was some way to add Bennett into the precinct's name so that they wouldn't lose their identity. And I feel like, I don't know if it's possible to go back and rename it without it being a big kerfuffle. But I told them that I would bring it to the board because, I can understand why they would want to lose their identity. So I'm just kind of throwing that ball out there. Like I said, I don't know what the process would be to rename it or to add it in or, whatever, but.
You have any thoughts on that, Pandora?
I'll check on it. I
Yeah,
don't know what it
That-
entails.
That seems like a reasonable adjustment.
yeah, I get it, because it is now a huge sort of portion of the southwestern part of the county. And I think that, what was expressed to me was that they would just feel more ownership. They've lost their polling place and their name, so if they at least had their name in there, that it would go a long way.
But then is that gonna set the precedent for other people to change their names too? So, it,
Right, I understand,
Oakland also lost their polling place.
yeah. I understand, I'm just, like I said, I'm throwing it out there.
I'll just check and see because I know it was difficult to change, these precincts.
Right,
And go through a long, drawn out process, so.
well, the other thing that I
And then
thought,
what name would you name it?
well, there's that, but the other thing that I thought about is that we also still need to break up Man's Chapel precinct. So it could be possible that we do them both at the same time, or when we can get to breaking up the Man's Chapel precinct is when we could do
Make
that.
adjustments for other things.
Yeah, that it's not something that we need to do,
Well, it may be just as simple as changing the name for them, but,
yeah,
I'm for some simplicity. I'm not in favor of making over this long precinct thing.
It used to be Harper's Crossroads,
Right.
and so it was changed to just Crossroads and
Right.
joined with Bennett, so
then it
you're just
crosses.
adding 2 syllables back.
Not syllables.
I would say cross bin or something like that.
Whatever, I'm just saying, you know, I heard their concerns, their questions, you know,
Yeah, I hear them too. And I just disagree.
okay, well, you know, we'll see.
And you had another comment?
That was really,
That was the comment.
that was the bigger of the comment, I heard it several times. And then the other thing that I would say is that on election day in Bong Lee, they were voting in the theater, in the school.
Auditorium, yeah.
Well, they were on the stage.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so, you know, they'll be happy when they can get back to their school. That's what I would say.
Hopefully that
It
was a
was
one
very-
time.
That happened because of
That
the
was
change
one
in.
time.
Yeah, hopefully
That's a
one time
one-time
thing.
thing.
No, and
Yeah.
I certainly, I told them that, but, you know, it was cramped in there, kind of walking
Yeah.
across that stage and, you know, kind of, they were a little frustrated by that.
Educate me, what's,
We didn't get any complaints from voters.
what are you talking about?
Bong Lee had to
Yeah.
move from the
Did we?
Bong Lee
Yeah.
school to Central Chatham High School.
Townsend,
Yeah, Chatham Central, sorry.
Because of testing issues, right?
Yeah.
So they moved from an elementary school to another school?
Yeah, to a high school, and they were on the stage at the auditorium.
And the reason they were on the stage too is because school was in. If school hadn't been in, it could have been the gym. That's where they voted during the pandemic.
They were in an auditorium
Yes.
on a stage.
Yes.
Is that difficult access or something? What is
It was
it?
just cramped.
It's just cramped.
Yeah, it was
Hi.
cramped, because the curtains were down, so they couldn't go far back onto the stage.
I think initially they were told they could have the whole stage.
They didn't have the whole stage.
I know, but they were, because I've got the email from Mr. Blyce.
Yeah.
And then, but then they also were finally allowed to put the tables in the sort of
Yeah.
walkway part, but, you know, I
Yeah.
mean,
I understand. Yeah,
I could see why they were.
hopefully we won't have that issue. I pray that school is out in November.
Well, that's the thing,
They
I
can
mean,
go
is
back to
if you wanna
Monday.
complain about stuff like that, if you wanna complain about stuff like that, go complain to your legislators, because they're the ones that changed the election 2 or 3 times. We had no control over, because originally, the schools accommodated us, because they knew when the elections were, and they were gonna close down on that day, and then they switched them over, and we're like, you know.
I
it was
understand
one of
that.
those, yeah.
I'm also telling you I was there and it was
Oh, yeah,
tight.
I fielded phone calls
Yeah.
on that matter, and I told them exactly what I'm telling you. If you wanna complain to somebody, complain to legislators, because we have no control over it. In the school, they can only do so much.
No, and
Yeah.
Chatham Central was very
Yeah, that's
gracious
what
to
I'm
let
saying,
us in
there's
there,
only so much to do.
you know, it was tight. That is all I'm saying about it, is that it was tight.
Yeah, it was tight. I can imagine.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make 2 comments. And, to support, but also be critical of both of y'all. It was the allowed the legislature's hands as the court systems was cracking the whip and changing the dates, okay? So you talked to the 3 judges at Wake Superior Court. Number 2, as the school system's responsibility to help us to conduct elections.
And they did.
Well, if we get half a stage, we take half a stage.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
If we want the curtains up, they should accommodate us. But, yeah, I think y'all did exemplary work with it. I mean, the goalposts are being moved every 2 weeks in February and March.
Yeah.
So, we're being critical, but we're also, I thought, they did pretty good.
Yeah, no, you know,
And
like I
it's-
said,
I hear you.
I'm just passing along what I heard while I was out and about.
I was there, I met with Mr. Blyce, I met with Janet, the chief judge. We went over everything. We said this was the best we could do. So I think it worked well for what we had, the conditions we worked with. And I understand, and hopefully this is the only time we have to use it, but that's the only place we're able to use.
Oh, yeah,
So,
no, I
yeah,
mean, you know,
yeah.
once again, difficult, much like the northeastern part of the county,
Yeah.
the southwestern part of the county,
Exactly.
was very, very limited in our options. It was a primary, so it wasn't that busy. If it had not been a primary and it had been a busy day,
Right, exactly.
you know,
And then people weren't reading the signs, Mr. Blyce said about putting the vote, the parking, and they went to the other end of the building, and, I mean, you know, it's just,
oh, yeah. I had a hard time, like, figuring out where I was supposed to turn, so, getting in there, so.
hopefully we can be there.
I wanna, shift to election night. I commend Steve and Donald for all the work you do, setting up and greeting the chief judges when they come in. But my heart still goes out to those chief judges who are so exhausted at the end of the day, and when they have to sit around for 45 minutes waiting to be processed, I just keep wondering, is there any way to speed up that process? Either by training a few more people to do the work that you do, bringing the election, information in, or just, is there anything we can do to
We
speed
did
that
some
up for
action,
people?
after action reviews on it, and we're gonna tweak the forms, but the issues that we had, which delayed us, was a few new chief judges that had done it for the first time. We're accountable as they are.
Right.
So when you come in and the audit sheet is not completed at all, and we have to go back and look at every ballot like you, Don and I were doing, and when the seals are not on there, and we have to account for everything, because if we get audited, we need to explain why certain situations in the current election night. So we started off well,
Yeah,
but then we get to a couple of chief judges that did it for the first time, and that takes time, and when that takes time, it backlogs everything else. So I guess improvement in the training, I think Pandora was talking about doing like an actual training class just on election night audit and how they're supposed to do the paperwork might speed things
that's a
up.
good idea.
And also, if, one thing slowed us down too, with upload results was, getting the thumb drives out of the tabulated. And I know that was a part of the audit process, but if it could be a way to get those thumb drives into us so we can get the, results uploaded a little
I mean,
bit
You mean
faster.
that's something that would happen before they meet with?
Yeah,
As
we
they come in.
we could get the thumb drive out immediately.
Yeah, well, that was what
That
I
has
was
nothing
gonna
to do with
say.
that audit process.
Even if you had two board members over there, and as soon as a precinct came in, we were getting the scanner so that we could make a note of everything and then grab the thumb drive, that would mean that we could upload quicker, if you'd be willing to break that process. Which is what we used to
We were a lot
do.
later leaving.
Yeah, what we need to do, yeah,
Stay
and
home.
Yeah.
there's a couple of things. Number one, I think, is, we gotta set this room up, and when we have lunch in here, and there's not much of a turnaround time for us to get it ready, that becomes an issue, because I liked it when we first did it, we put, each precinct, there was a piece of
Yeah.
paper, and as they came in, that's where their stuff needed to go. This time, we didn't have that, and so there were things all over the place. So I think if we have a section where this is where all the stuff comes, and then the board can go take the thumb drives out like they need to, and then put the seal document and just leave it there for us when it comes time for us to audit.
Right.
That would work better, yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, even if we're just over here, I'm just looking at this table over here. We could bring it out, take it over there, write down the seal number and cut it, and then take it in. That would just make our process quicker of uploading results.
What you could do is, when they first come in this room, the scanner's in there, have somebody in there, and as soon as the scanner comes in there, you cut the seal, and then you take the,
That's true too.
that
Yeah.
way,
That's
you're
where we
getting
used
it.
to do it.
you do it
Yeah,
that way.
well, I mean, we used to, actually, the chief judges used to put it,
Well, you
In the
didn't have to
past.
get into the machine to get it.
yeah,
So it's easier.
So it stays secure in the machine.
Yeah.
That they used to already have it in the bag. when they got
Right.
back.
I remember very well.
Yeah, just have it in the bag, yeah.
because I used to have to cut that seal. And so.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main point when they come in here is, for a board member of each party to see that the seal has not been tampered with. And we had a couple of machines where the seal was off because they misunderstood, again, one of the processes we need to understand. So stuff like that is like.
Well, stuff like that is not, I mean,
Yeah.
that clearly,
Comparative.
that's a different story. But if
Yeah.
it's sort of a general, okay, maybe the paperwork isn't done, but their scanner's right, then, we could
That's
take care
fine,
of
that's the
that.
first thing that needs to come out anyway.
Yeah, the
Right.
scanner's the first thing.
Yeah, and then the ballot bag needs to go on, we'll sit down and kind of do a process of
Yeah,
what needs to be done. I think a lot of the problems we had in this last election is that everybody was wanting to help us, which is great, but then that caused a lot of confusion because people were grabbing stuff left and right, and then we couldn't figure out what had already been done and what had not already been done, what was in the back, what was not in the back. So we're gonna sit down and kind of run a process at the beginning, board members, right as they come in, take the seal, take it over there, take the ballot bag, take it back there. Kind of we'll we'll do a situation where we run kind of smooth, but no matter what you do in this situation, you're gonna have judges that are gonna come in early, and then you're gonna have those that are gonna, 6 or 7 of them, they're gonna come in all at one time. And regardless of what you do, they're gonna have to sit and wait a little bit, because we can.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if there were any tweaks that could
Maybe we
move
could,
it up, and it sounds like
maybe
we've
we
got
could
a
put them in
couple
a different
ideas.
room or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
We
no,
don't
I
have
mean,
enough space.
honestly, having them in this room, watching what we do, I think helps them understand. Because a lot of the judges that sat there and saw what we were doing were like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot to do that, or I needed that. So then seeing what we expect of them or what we need from them, when they're sitting there and watching it, the next time around, they know what to do and don't have to run into that problem. It's a long night for all of us.
And
But-
then too, we have very compressed trainings. We try to put a whole lot of information, we don't have, even though we split the training up, we try to, there's still not enough allotted time for us to train and also be here and do the administrative work, especially,
And the reason we can't speed this up, the audit thing, or split it up, have others doing it, is because we need to know if something happened on that
I
night,
need to know
it
too.
needs to be fresh on their minds while they're there, because the next morning, when we're auditing, we're trying to figure out, why are we over on this, or why are we short on that? If we have documentation of that night when they came in, then we know what to do the next day to make the corrections on there.
See, years ago, the chief judge just dropped the stuff off
and left.
and left, and we tried to figure out what was going on, so we said, we can't do this anymore, we have to have them in here. And to what Pandora says, when you only do it once or twice a year, maybe every other year or something, it's really hard. So, I mean, they do a tremendous job, to what they do, because it's a lot of information. And
As I observe y'all, on good documentation is huge.
Yes.
And this is exactly what you're talking about, all you did is you write down the deficiencies as you see them, that's what you were doing in here. So that's huge, so you can go back 2 weeks later, reconstruct how you made decisions.
And some of them take it the wrong way.
yeah,
Some of the chief judges, when they see us doing that, they take it personally, thinking, I've done something wrong, or I haven't done my job right. No, you forgot, or it's not you, but if we don't document this, if we get audited by the state, they're gonna ask us, why was the seal not on here? Why,
And
so
the
we need to
question,
be able to explain to them, this is how it came in on election night, this is why, that's why we do the
and the
documentation.
questions are gonna come 2 and 4 weeks later.
Exactly, so
Yeah,
the
it's
more
gotta be already-
documentation you have,
Include that in your training.
yeah.
Say, hey, guys, we're gonna document, invariably, you're gonna have some deficiencies.
Yeah, and we expect that.
And we're gonna
It's,
document real well, because the questions.
Yeah, and I know a couple of them, a few of them took it personally, it's not. This is something that, Dawn and I, and all the stuff that you think we really want you to fill out all these forms, this is stuff that's required by the state. We want you to put all those seals, and then you have to put the seals again and all that. That's not something we're doing, that's what's set by state law, and we're just following it. We're just trying to make it as easy as possible. Sometimes it's just not easy to do this stuff, you just have to, sit down and do it.
What?
Those sheets, I need them back to notarizing.
Well, anyway, I just
Yeah,
want
I
to
mean,
bring it up,
yeah.
and any thoughts you have, and
And any thoughts anybody's got, let us know. I mean, that's a good suggestion, what Amy said, to do that.
Yeah.
Any suggestions y'all have, y'all work here on election night, y'all see how chaotic it is, whatever you think needs to be. And we told that to the chief judges too.
Yeah, and if you come up with some kind of a plan where, you can think of ways that we can be more helpful and not creating more chaos by helping, by.
No, y'all do a great job.
Well, all right, but give us a clear assignment.
Y'all do a great job. I think the chief judges get a little nervous when they see the board over here and they're thinking, uh-oh. It's like, I'm in class here and the principal's here, watch this kind of, but no, we will have assigned duties we did it on election night. Everybody had their own assigned duties of what they were doing. We just need to streamline it a little bit, make it a little bit easier, and I think we'll put sections where stuff needs to go, and then we'll tell you what time to take stuff back there.
And, setting up a little table in there
Yeah,
to
just
take care of
to-
the other
I think
items would be
too,
great.
in the spirit of, I agree that space is an issue. I think we could move some things out of this room, like that stuff against that wall, just move it out temporarily.
We can't move our postage
We can't.
machine.
Yeah, I can't move that.
It's connected to the,
We would love to.
And the thing about it,
Trust
we-
me, if we move that
Yeah.
machine, you may not have posters for 6 months.
And then-
That's true, yeah.
And
That's
then,
a chance where he has to
Oh,
deal
yeah,
with.
this machine has a lot of issues. I don't want to touch it.
and then if you move that, where are you gonna move it?
Just for one night.
I mean, but where would you move it?
Just out in the hall.
Well, we need the hall for.
We got those folders in the hall.
What's in the hall now?
Look in the hall.
In the break room.
I'm just saying that this is the real estate in this room.
Yeah.
So let's just think outside the box. If you can't move it, can you put it on the floor and put a table over it so you have a
Oh my God,
workspace
do you
on
know
top
how,
of it?
do you know how heavy that thing is?
I haven't ever tried to pick it up, but,
Well,
all right.
This table might be optional, but this table right here would not be able to
Well, we
move.
can figure something, we could still fit 16, I mean, we
Yeah.
can do 16.
Well, we had these big chairs in here too. I mean, it was kind of.
We can figure it, yeah.
In our new election space,
Yes.
presumably we will have a larger space to work with. I think it would also be nice if we had a few comfy chairs on election night,
For, yeah,
and maybe
for
a few
chief judges.
snacks for the judges when they come in,
Yeah,
just
just-
something that
those are
helps
just
them
budgetary
get
And
through
he's just
that.
talking about in our new location, if we ever go to a new location.
I'll
Okay,
be 6 foot under.
well, are we done with, praise and comments, and can we look at the, incident reports, just a quick scan through perhaps?
That's just election day, the early voting ones are out in the early voting stuff.
Is
If
anybody else
anybody's
interested in looking at these?
No.
These are the comments made by,
If you can read,
you want me to read them out loud?
no.
All right,
I
well,
mean, if you could read the right, some of it is pretty
let me just pass
rough
it
on
to
the
you.
eyeballs.
I mean, are any of them juicy?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, they're basic issues that occur at the sites, and we have to document them.
It also helps with our.
I mean, it could be something as minor as if the printer went down, we still make them do an incident report, letting them know the printer's not working or something like that. It used to, but it's such a big list that you just do the file. Huh?
I need to download the file.
You do need to download the whole thing, the whole file, but it doesn't go with that though. It gets emailed to the state.
Incorrect ballot.
And I have to take it.
Chance.
Huh?
We'll get them, we'll still need them whenever they get ready.
I didn't realize there was so many of them.
So these,
Yeah,
Someone
so
tried
that's
to
it.
other place.
That's massive.
so this is interesting. So here's one who refused to state their name and address. So this is all just hiccups that occur dealing with humans.
Yeah,
Some
and
humans are easier.
well, the reason that, the reason that one you talking about, the reason they do an incident report for that is because that person may call the state board and say, I tried to vote, and you wouldn't let them vote.
No, I got it.
And then those are, yeah, those are very important, because
Humans are complex, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Talk
to,
about it.
write a law is easy, and compliance, and to get compliance, it can be difficult. Voter had. Yeah.
Well, it does
This is it
remind
right
us
here.
of challenges
Yeah.
that poll workers deal with.
Will resolve. Right?
Or documented.
yeah,
Yeah, not.
it depends on how you define resolve.
The guy that wouldn't say his name, I'm not sure.
I mean, you got certain people that, you had an individual that came in for the ballot and just left, I mean, there's, you know,
Yeah, we did have.
there's only so much resolution you can do to that, so, I mean.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah.
The one whose husband was George Bush's campaign manager.
Well, that was a
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was, that
The one
was
that walked
good.
down in Siler City was not that person.
No.
They just got the man who took the ballot out.
And there's that one in Harper's Crossroads, that did the same thing. Luckily I showed up right
Crossroads?
after, yeah, Crossroads, luckily I showed up after that.
What happened? In Crossroads, I didn't hear about that one.
Now, here's one, we're talking about Verity Printer. Verity Printer issued 2 ballots without updating the count. Is that, There's some
Yeah,
hiccup in
that
there.
was a hiccup in the software, which will be resolved when we upgraded the new software. If they plug in, if they don't turn in the whole machine properly and then put in the scanner, if you put in the scanner first and then start up the machine, it won't keep counting. So it needs to go through the whole process of starting everything and then putting in the scanner. We realize that as we.
See, that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Someone not stating the name, I can understand that, but I would never.
But that's keeping track of how many ballots that machine's printing. The main number you should be worried about, and that always was right, is the scanner where the ballot gets the ballots in.
At the door.
Yes, you're thinking of two different things.
Well, this is the.
This one is counting how many pieces of paper that machine has printed out. The scanner's the one that, if there's something wrong with that one, then yeah.
Yeah.
Then
And that's the scanner is what we call the counter.
the count, the
or
very.
Yeah.
yeah,
Tabulator, yeah.
Tabulator. As long as that one's not off, we're okay. The various print machines, we just do that for our own, or we just wanna know how much paper is printing out.
Another campaigner came in to socialize.
No.
Well,
It was
socialize. Came in to complicated.
on the list.
Well, it's a relief that
What's
things didn't get too crazy inside the city.
Yeah,
Sure, had been
yeah.
hyped
all
up as
that,
being
yeah.
a potential problem.
It was I will say, having gone by both of those sites, it reminded me of Pittsburgh in its crazier days. But there were more people outside, more campaigners outside than inside the polling places.
So here's why, move their vehicle outside the curbside voting area. This is when I was asking if someone drives off at the training sessions.
Yeah.
So they move their car.
Yes. Still not people voting.
That's pretty good documentation.
I mean, give excellent credit to our poll workers, they do a great job. They don't panic, they do exactly what they're supposed to do, they call us, they tell us the situation, you tell them what to do, we tell them to document everything.
Took offense at too many questions we asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, they're human, it's like, comes with the territory.
So it sounds like this was sort of a major problem, this paper jam problem in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because it's set, if you don't put the right paper in there, if you put the regular paper rather than very,
Is that what happened?
it'll cause a jam, because that printer's set for the weight of the paper.
Is that election day or early voting?
Election day.
Okay.
Is that the one they were having problem? Is that the one because they,
About 12:15, the ballot box.
because of the door?
That was the ballot box. Not the very,
What precinct is that?
that's the ballot box, not the very print.
Pittsburgh, no, that was a door.
Yep.
That Donald fixed that, where
The door?
where the printer was, the door was open, and I guess the air was causing.
She said a ballot jam.
It says about 12:15, the ballot box had a paper jam. I called for the two judges to watch me open, remove jammed papers for hanging down in a bundle. This occurred another time, then again at the third time I called BOE.
Yeah, that's when Donald came in.
Did again, 1:12 PM, called BOE, Donald was on to assist with problem unknown what is causing little white roller with paper towel once voters exit room. What does
The
that
ballot
do
box
to the?
That was-
whole-
No, this was a ballot, sorry, I was thinking something else.
That was early voting, and what was happening is they opened the door up, it was very humid, and when they closed the door, it quit doing it. So,
But what I'm wondering about is what did it do to the tabulator? Did
It was the ballot.
It's the papers.
it's the paper.
No, but I mean, did it mess up the count or no?
No, they always tell the voter to watch the number, make sure the number goes up, so everything was fine. And if it wasn't fine, they would have called it within that hour when they check. Every hour they check their ballot box and they check their social applications.
Okay, so none of
Yes.
that.
No.
It's the same thing as that we tell the chief judge when they carry the ballots home with them, don't leave them in the trunk of your car.
Right.
Because the humidity gets in the ballot, and then when the machine gets ready to take it, it won't take it.
Because the way the machine takes it is it goes straight down and it goes down like this. If the paper's got humidity or if it's curled, when it's coming down like that, it can get hung.
Bends, yeah.
It can get hung on that thing, and then when the other ballot comes in, that's when it causes that.
The old machines.
So here's one, a wrong keystroke. Election assistant accidentally printed the wrong ATV, canceled on the computer. So they and then they corrected. So, you know what, I'm just thinking, sitting here thinking, free associating here. You could prepare, I'm not telling you what to do, you do a great job with your education, but one slide of the May 17 primary incident reports, and you could compile computer problems, wrong keystroke, you know, and then interpersonal problems. Voter got angry when I asked him a question, and you could show that and say, this is what happened, this is what you can expect. This may happen to you, and so get ready for it, and don't get flustered. It's okay, someone's gonna get angry with you.
Yeah, that sounds like a useful slide.
And then you have, and then you can say printer problem. Printer, and that way, here you are, guys. This is gonna happen, it's not gonna be perfect, document.
Your best advice always is to call the office
Mhm.
when there's a.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they did when
Technical
Ron
problem.
got that phone. I mean, sometimes it's a simple fix and sometimes it's not, and then you just have to, you know.
Speaking of printer problems, that was another thing that we did this time that worked really, really well, is every laptop was matched up with a printer in each precinct. So we sent out 4 laptops, sent out 4 printers. Printer number 1 went with laptop number 1. They did them, everything was done here. They printed out a page. When they went to the precincts, when they set up that morning, they put laptop number 1 with printer number 1, laptop number 2 with printer number 2. We didn't really have a printer problem this time. Last time we had several.
But y'all figured that out.
Yeah.
Right?
So why do you think you were having problems before?
Cause when they set it up here, they used one printer and did all the laptops with one printer. When you hook that printer up to a different laptop, it makes a copy. They did not go in and change the default from the main printer to copy number 1, so the printer wasn't printing because it didn't recognize the new copy of the printer. So, and that's why last time in 2020, we had several precincts that were voting people provisionally where it was just a printer problem.
Well, great. Hats off to you guys
I
for
like
figuring
it.
that out.
So simplicity is beauty, right?
Yes.
This computer goes with this printer.
Yeah. It's a lot of work on this end, but it saves all your problems.
And then we won't have to have printer text.
Yeah. It did away with printer text, yeah.
Well, that's a big,
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It's a
yeah, that's a big
savings,
deal,
too.
and a big savings, yeah.
Because you might have had 20 more incident reports if you hadn't done that.
Could have.
Well, and, I mean, that's been a problem for 12 years.
Yeah. You could have had a lot more phone calls. Printer's not working.
Yeah,
Printer's not
More
working.
provisional.
Printer's not working. Yeah, more provisionals.
So we figure out a lot as we go. Yeah. So overall, I think everything went well.
That's the real one. Since you were reacting to changes in dates, like every 2 weeks in February, March, they're changing things.
I think as they get used to using the same stuff over and over again, they get more comfortable with it. Remember, we've had these guarding machines, you know, the more elections we use them, the more they're gonna get more comfortable and get away from the old machines that they're used to. Same thing with the printers and laptops, the more you, and again, like you mentioned, we only do this a couple times a year. I mean, and we do try to do, we've got all the good instruction sheets on there where, you know, pictures on there with arrows and everything like follow. If they could, just don't hand it, just take the sheet out, and that's what they did. They take it, for those that did, a couple of them where their printers weren't working, as soon as they took the instruction sheets out and followed step by step, it started working again, so.
Does anybody else have any additional comments or thoughts, including staff, about the election being completed?
I think we need to give Chance a big applause because, I mean, dealing with that many poll workers, everybody changing and doing this, and I mean, it was a headache for
Oh,
me.
yeah, thank you, yeah. I will say it's quite, this was the most difficult election it was when it came to staffing and scheduling poll workers. 2020 in November was a breeze compared to this,
Amazing.
so.
Oh, because you had all the patriots or whatever they were.
Democracy Heroes, yeah.
Democracy Heroes.
Yeah, I think this is when a lot of people were vacationing, going back to work, and it was harder to fill up. But I think November, we can work with this. It won't be as hard.
I already have a student assistant for you
Oh.
all.
He put a new meaning to the word patience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the
That was in
hospital
all
kind of
areas
patience.
of
Yeah.
the election, and I'm just glad it's done.
Yeah. And I also want to give a shout out to Donald, Pandora, and Steve, and Malin, and the board, and our poll workers. They did a wonderful job. I mean, this election was tough. I mean, this was not an easy election by any means. And our poll workers on the site, they know it. And everybody here at the office knows it, and you guys know it. Primaries are never fun, but they prepare you for the general election, which usually is a straightforward election. So
One
Yeah.
ballot, with one ballot style maybe.
should be one, yeah.
ballot for
Yeah.
precinct.
And that'll
Yeah.
be a huge help too.
Yes.
So, normally, before when we were coding by ballot style, we would have to do precinct sort.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that any
Goodness.
longer,
Yes.
because we code by precinct now, so all I have to go in there, do is hit the button and it's uploaded. So that's a good thing.
You won't be able to go. You can't go back anyway. I mean, those varied machines only do by precinct.
Oh,
You can't
yeah.
go back.
You
Yeah.
can't go
I don't
back.
wanna go
They
back.
don't do ballot styles, they only do
I
precinct.
don't wanna go back. I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to the coming election in July, the possible coming election in July. We need to, the idea was today to approve an early voting schedule in the event that we do have to have that July election, so that we don't have to meet next week and approve it on the fly, because it's a date by which this has to be submitted, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are your suggestions for early
Monday
voting?
through Friday, 8 to 5, and the last Saturday, 8 to 3.
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
And the last Saturday, 8 to 3.
And this would all be here in the office and
Here.
staffed by
Us,
the staff.
You say the early voting would be
here.
one side,
Here.
right here.
Mhm.
And this is for Cary Municipal. So they're going to have to get in their cars and drive here. And that's what we want, is that?
We tried to, see if we could use the same church as an early voting site, but it is too far to be in loop of the Board of Elections office. You have to have a site at the office.
That's why you use
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
So you're gonna make it, so they're gonna come.
Here. We get a
Or
couple of voters.
They can
but,
vote by mail
Yeah.
or go to their precinct election.
Well, they got.
We get
They
a
have
couple
15
come
days.
here, yeah, they do.
And so on election day, what precincts will be open?
New Hope and East Williams.
And do we know approximately how many voters that's?
I know it's over,
3,000. It's 3,000. Yeah, but
Total?
I think so. It could
2,000.
be close to 4, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at New Hope lately. Yeah, it's closer to 4,000 voters.
So can
In the city,
anybody
municipal,
who
yeah.
We're in the
voted,
town.
that lives in the town can vote in this runoff? So if you didn't cast a ballot at the primary, you can still cast a
If
ballot?
you were registered, yeah.
Okay.
So, what does this mean for the board? Are we still gonna meet once a week to,
You will always have absentee ballot meetings as long as we do absentee ballots by mail or early voting. So you will have your scheduled dates, and I'll give those to you. And if there's ballots, then you will approve them, but then I don't know how because they're statutorily made, then you have to cancel meetings within 48 hours. So if we foresee we don't have any ballots for that particular meeting, then we can cancel the meeting. But it has to be
2
done
days
in
ahead.
48 hours, yes.
So that would mean it would have to be done on Friday, because otherwise it would have to be done Sunday
Given the-
afternoon.
given the number of ballots anticipated, I think we maybe set up a schedule where we just have a quorum here, like, uh, 3 people show up and rotate which 3 that is.
The other,
That's not the way it works.
no, we can do that. Could we do this?
Okay, well,
You're supposed to be here. I mean, if you can't be here, that's one thing, but
Yeah, right now,
pre-planning or premeditating might be.
so right now, we still have to have
That's not your
five
duty.
meetings. So
What did you say?
6/21, 6/28, 7/5, 7/12, and 7/19.
I'll give you those later too.
So this is my question. They have to come in by Monday at 5 in order to count for that Tuesday, correct?
Yeah.
So if by Monday at 5 we don't have any ballots, could we turn that into a telephone meeting? And then we adjourn, say there are no ballots, and, or not adjourn,
I don't know if
but
they can do that by telephone or not. But I mean, if nothing's come in by Friday, you can cancel that meeting for that upcoming Tuesday. And if any ballots do come in that Monday or Tuesday morning, they move into the next meeting.
Because you can go ahead and do the cure process and all that.
Yeah, when I scan them in, it gives me the option of what board meeting date the board's gonna approve or not approve.
Because the important thing is that we're not slowing down somebody's
Yeah,
ability
exactly.
to fix their
Yes.
ballot if they need to.
Exactly.
Right.
So by Friday, if nothing's come in by Friday, then Pandora can notify the board, there's no meeting, we can give a
We'll just cancel the
required 48 hours and cancel the meeting. If anything does come in by Monday, when I scan it in, the voter's still gonna know their ballot came in, and, you know, they're gonna know that the board's gonna approve that ballot on the next board meeting, because when I put it on there, I'm not gonna put that Tuesday, I'm gonna put the following Tuesday as well.
all right, so tentatively, you said it's the 12th? Let me write this down.
It's
It's
June
June 21,
Oh, wait,
6/21. That's number one, yeah. Meeting number
We
one.
gotta go right into this.
7:05.
Number two, 6/28. Number three, meeting 7/5. Meeting four is 7/12. Meeting 5 is 7/19. And then, of course, the pre-elections. They're all gonna be there for that 25th,
7:25.
7/25, you know,
I'm not gonna
that
say
Monday
that
before.
one. I'm not gonna be there for that one.
Okay. And then 7/26 is election day. And the canvas is 8/5, August 5th, but Pandora will set the provisional and, I don't know what they usually set
Always
the
do it
day.
the day before
When is
campus.
election day?
Election day is, July 26th.
Oh, yeah.
so when would the,
Provisional meeting and the supplemental meeting would be 8/4, if the canvas is 8/5.
Okay.
We normally do it, but then canvas for that election would be
It's just
a shorter period.
Well, that's what they've got, they've got 8/5 set for that canvas, for that election.
Oh, okay, so it's still a Sunday canvas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, do we let the board know stuff now, if we know it? I'm gonna miss the 12th absentee meeting. I'm gonna be in Denver at the Election Center Conference, taking my first 5 courses.
Okay, that's,
And, so I can't be here the 12th. I can be here the other days.
okay, that's fine.
I'll send you an email so that you'll have some documentation.
Okay. And the 21st and the 19th are our regular meetings.
So
As well,
I didn't even put them.
No, I'm just saying, 6/21 would have been our,
Yeah.
Oh,
It'll be our June
6/21 is a
meeting.
regular, okay, I got
and
you.
then the 19th,
Is a regular, yeah,
Is a regular
right, for
meeting
Tuesday.
as
I didn't even factor that into the count, yeah, sorry.
when will we need to roughly, so July 19th is when we'll probably need to deal with our early voting for the fall, right?
Probably.
Or at least start talking
I
about
don't know when the plans will be due, but they'll send us an email and let us know when those plans are due.
it. Okay.
Because, absentee voting starts being available in September, doesn't it? For the,
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
you're talking about like
November.
for the November election, no, around
Sometime
September.
this year.
I think it's usually mid-September.
We'll take the whole year off next year.
anybody have any other questions about?
We need to vote on the plan though,
Oh, okay.
if you agree with that plan.
Okay, so the motion
It needs to be
would be-
unanimous.
The motion would be, to conduct early voting, from, okay,
July
right,
7th,
July 7th to the 23rd.
July 7th to the 23rd, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, last Saturday, 8 to 3, and that the early voting site will be at the office staffed by our staff.
yes.
So that's the motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous.
Amen.
One early voting site right here.
And you,
Do we have to do anything by the absentee by mail? Do we have to, or is that just automatically?
These are set dates.
Okay.
So if there is a meeting, you'll attend, and if we don't have any ballots during that time period, on that Friday, and I'll let you know, and then we'll cancel that meeting.
Email.
so the
I'm
6th,
assuming the 21st, y'all, I mean, 'cause that's a regular meeting,
yeah,
so I'm assuming that'll be the timeframe for everybody to come to, and I'm assuming the 19th also,
Yes.
because that's a regular one.
Yes.
And the other ones, we'll just play it by ear and see if we have anything.
is,
But then I won't be here the 12th.
Yeah, that's fine.
okay, so is Juneteenth a county holiday? Because it's a federal
Yes.
holiday.
Mhm.
Yes, it is.
All right,
Which day?
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, so that's gonna be 6/20, right? Are you all observing 6/20 or 6/17?
I don't know.
I think it's 6:20.
I think it's 6:20.
Yeah, so we probably won't have any absences.
What is that?
Juneteenth. So. Okay,
All right. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about?
We did have, I should have brought this up whenever, we were talking about what could have done better. This was the thing with the issue at, Man's Chapel, Terry Smith, about the, how they didn't set the boundary. He was speaking for both parties, actually, the clarification of where the 50-foot buffer was supposed to be and encompassing that curbside, but I think we squared that away. The, poll worker thought that they were supposed to measure it from the car, but it's actually from the door of the voting place.
oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
So
so they took it all the way out to the
Yeah.
curbside voting spot?
that's what he has in here, but Frank,
I was there.
he didn't think it was that far, but anyway.
Well, it was probably, we should move.
It was
100
further than what
feet.
it should have been.
If 50 foot from the door was probably the curbside voting. And then the worker measured another 50 feet from curbside voting
Oh,
as the,
As a perimeter
But she
around.
said, she said the curbside voting was a voting booth, and therefore it had to be 50 feet.
They just said, no.
And I was fine with it, and all the different electioneering was happening at basically 100 feet, and it was fine. But someone complained,
What, it
so.
was too
It was
far?
fine to you, Frank, yeah.
Yeah, I thought
It was fine to him, though.
So tell me, what's your solution?
So
It's 50 foot from the
it's
door.
50 foot from the door.
Oh, I-
And about the car,
How far from the car?
she just draw around the car,
She just does a circle. where
around the car.
parks.
It's no feet
You do
from
a
the car,
circle.
just,
So they
that
can
just,
walk up an electioneer
no,
right in the car.
if
No,
they didn't
walk
circle
out.
the vehicle with just the vehicle, no, that's for them not to, campaign. But
So they have to stay away from the car 12 feet, 20 feet.
unless the voter calls them, yes.
Yeah, unless the voter calls them over or stops. Sometimes the voters will stop right in the middle, as they're cruising in and then they'll stop.
All right.
They can still set up their tents 50 foot from the door, which is, I think, what they were complaining about, instead of
Yes.
100 feet. But they cannot go where the curbside voting, when they do that little circle where the car is, they can't go there unless the voter tells them
Right,
to come.
But it doesn't need to be a 50-foot buffer.
no,
No,
From the curbside.
no.
That has to be 50 foot from the
No.
curbside.
no,
Right.
50 foot from the entrance of those
Front
doors.
The door to the voting
Yeah.
place.
That's correct. That's where they can set up their, tents and everything. But curbside where the car is, where the voter, that's considered a voting enclosure. And they do a 50 foot, like kind of a circle around that car. They're not allowed to go in there. It's,
Well, wait a minute, that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
It's just a circle around the vehicle. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, it can be,
10 feet?
no,
No,
it can be, 12 inches. I mean, just
They may have a
as
red
long as the
tent.
people know not to
4
come to
feet
the
from the
car.
just don't go, basically, don't approach the car unless the voter tells you to vote. That's pretty much it.
So they can get close to the.
I guess we could probably buy some magnetic things to stick on the car that says no. No, I'm just.
Listen.
Let me drop off of those.
Even as one of those people, as a former campaigner, you don't wanna, upset the person you're trying to convince for your candidate. So
Yes,
nobody
yes,
is going to accost someone in a car or even risk making them mad at them, because that goes counter to what you're
Some
trying to
have.
do.
Well, yeah.
Well, I think the problem that they were.
Well,
The issue that they
the
were
party
having.
needs to bring those people
They
in,
do.
because they're defeating their own purpose.
And I think the issue that they were having is, so they were going to the cars and giving them those sample ballots. They were coming into the doors and handing it to them, and while the voter's trying to vote, and that's where the problem was occurring. They were trying to tell them-
That person needs to be,
Yeah.
have the wrist slap.
And then I think, we had another complaint, and, somebody had gone in to vote, and they had a campaign sticker, for a certain party, and left it laying on the check-in station, and I don't think the poll workers paid any attention. But then, they should pay attention to that, because they're supposed to go through periodically and pick up all the campaign paraphernalia and get rid of it. So somebody did complain, sent Steve a picture of that on his phone, so, we handled that.
So we're back to,
Problems.
number two.
Yes, we are.
That was my fault.
No, it's okay.
Let me make a comment about curbside voting. So curbside voting is a service, it's a great thing, I like it. I predict we're gonna continue to have problems with invasions through the window, people too close to the door, people obstructing my ability to back up the car. Why? Because curbside voting is vulnerable. It's outside the voting enclosure, even though it's called a voting enclosure. It's sitting out in the parking lot. Multiple people could come up close to the voting enclosure. So even though we think we kind of have it fixed, I predict we'll have other problems.
And the chief judge, and we can remind them, because somebody did call me about somebody approaching vehicles, and I don't know if the people were campaigning or if it was people that, you know how you see your friends or somebody, you may go over and speak. I didn't know what the predicament was, but I told the person that was complaining to go inside and alert the chief judge. And then I would have the chief judge periodically or send somebody out there to monitor. You know, you don't have to hang out there, but you can go from time to time to check to make sure that nobody is, impeding that space in the curbside voting
And a little bit of education will work, like Mark said, as a former
Then
campaign.
you're just gonna have some people that are defiant.
It'll work against you to do.
Well,
It really does work against, I mean, somebody hasn't made up their mind and someone's pushing at them, they may just push them to vote against their candidate.
Yeah.
You're gonna have reasonable electioneering and you're gonna have some aggressive.
yes.
There are a lot of, you got a lot of new people, it's their first election, it's their first rodeo, and they go there.
Were there election protection people out this election, and
Well, I
so
had-
did we hear anything from anybody?
There were some out at Siler City.
Yeah, I got an email saying they were gonna be out. They didn't say which particular
Right.
precincts, but they let me know they're gonna be there.
But you didn't hear from anybody?
Yeah. And, you know, I say this as a former chief judge, I mean, it is good to remind the chief judges that, like, they have the authority to, I mean, one is to get outside of the voting enclosure and see what's going on outside. That's really important. Like, for the electioneers need to see you. They need to know that you are out there keeping an eye on what's going on.
Yeah.
So even if you're just running, you know, a curbside every now and again, you know, that's the best time, because you can say at that point, you know, hey, y'all are getting a little too close.
Back away.
Yeah,
And that's, I think that's a great idea, just like, you know, in the morning when you have the people out there, to tell them, you know, good morning, I'm the chief judge here, just so you know, this is the curbside, this is, we're gonna have this, you know, let them know where, you know,
That's a good
you
idea.
can't approach it, you do that. The issue you have is, you tell them the morning shift, but then you have the afternoon shift that comes in.
so, no, so then at that point, you give them what you can do, and you say, I'm gonna depend on you to pass this off to the next group of people.
Yeah.
And then, you know, sort of when is shift change? Because I used to do this every single day when I managed a one-stop site. I would go out and I'd pull the electioneers in, especially if there was something new, and say, listen, this is where we are, please, blah, 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 blah. And this is, you know, especially if it was new people. And this was, when we were getting asked not to be in shopping centers anymore. So it is really incumbent on the chief judge
It's
or the
gotten
site
better.
manager to be seen. I know it has gotten better just from like driving
And
around.
another thing we try to do is to share with the parties so they can train their people.
Yeah.
Not to be so aggressive. And what not to do and what, pretty much what we'll tolerate and what we won't.
Yeah, it does seem like the parties have gotten a
They've
little bit.
gotten
Yeah.
better. We had a meeting with them. I had a meeting with the two chairs at one point, but it wasn't me. Terry might have been one of them, but the other one wasn't that one. I had to sit down with them and went over it.
Probably
This
should do
was-
it
this
again
was-
before this election.
Yeah,
This was a couple of years late. This was my
It's
first.
been civilized, even with that managed chapel thing, it was very civilized. The person,
They
they said,
they've done
listen,
better.
did something change here? We're pretty sure it's supposed to be 50 foot, what's going on? I mean, it wasn't like,
They were
you're
better.
wrong,
Got
you need to
better.
move it, kind of demanding. I mean, what they wanted, as soon as we figured out what the issue was, and we explained it to them.
And they worked it out.
They worked it out, it wasn't, yeah.
Yeah.
And we know what to do the next time around, when it comes up to
Just
this.
communication.
Yeah. I mean, and it's hard to remember at 6:30 in the morning that, you're trying to get everything done. So kudos to the chief judges just in general. It's just, it is part of the day's job, is to kind of be seen outside. So, yeah.
And it
So-
makes it easier too when we put our 2 cents in.
One forewarning, and I don't know if this is true, but I'm gonna say it. On November the 8th, you're gonna have Republican versus Democrat.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Democrat versus Republican, the intensity level may be cubed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have a lot more voters.
Oh, yeah.
So all that we're talking about, you may want to have them not run that curbside voting parking space, say, these are the boundaries, guys, because people may be more fussy on November the 8th.
And that's where it helps to have a strong chief judge that comes over and says, this is my site. I control this area, I'm the chief judge here. This is how it's gonna be done. This is how it needs to be done by law. I depend on y'all to do what y'all are supposed to, but if it doesn't happen, I'm gonna do the necessary measures that need to be done to make sure they're followed, which may include contacting the Board of Elections office or contacting the sheriff or whatever.
Right.
As long as they understand that.
Maybe get some fake sheriff stars for the chief judge.
Great idea, Mark.
I am the law here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when
Art
you're
and I'll
going,
come by.
I'll give you the
well,
same mark.
You get
we
more
used
power,
to
good.
get sent out for
You're
issues like
Patriots.
this, but now we can't. No, is that correct?
It wasn't?
I said,
It's
they
considered a
used
bad
to be-
idea.
Yeah,
Well, Frank had a point because it's gonna get to a new level.
Yeah,
it is.
It's
It
gonna get
will.
to a new level. And, we can talk to our, the county party chairs, and all know what they do at the state, but then there's other, groups and things that have people that they send out who we
Right.
don't necessarily communicate with.
I think the idea about the board not going out and trying to settle problems is that in the event of a protest or something, we
Right.
don't want to have been involved
Right.
in the activity that was
Yeah,
going
no,
on.
you don't.
I mean, it used to be that, if we had a problem, we could
I
Right.
call the board to come in and sort of, if not say anything, but at least have a presence at that spot.
I actually
And
went.
that
to
would
one
kind of
of
calm
those.
that down. So,
Went somewhere and did it.
I thought one thing that I did that was different, I went to 5 voting sites, and then I came here for 2 p.m. And then at 7:30, so I saw 5 chief judges. At 7:30, they were coming in, and here I come in with the bald head and the tie, right? And they saw me, and I saw them. I don't know if that's good or not, but they knew I was there in the morning and I'm here in the evening. It added a continuity, or maybe maybe it was maybe they're afraid of me. I don't know, but I walk in, I look, they see me, and I saw them. I don't know.
No, you're encouraged, we want you to go out on election day, we want you to see precincts. What you need to have on the back of your mind, like Pandora said, is if an issue occurs, you're on the board, and you're the one that has to make a decision on it. So if you put yourself if you're in that situation, you're gonna have to recuse yourself from it.
yeah,
So it's one of those where, come
You
see
don't wanna
it, but
hang
if you
out
see
too
a
long.
problem,
Yeah.
don't get yourself involved in it, because
exactly.
you need to go back and call us and say, hey, there's a situation here that may involve the board later on, let's try to get it, resolve that kind of stuff, so.
Right, exactly. I mean, you know, and there was something going on, and I was like, we'll call the office, or, you know, whatever, like, because I knew that. I'm just saying that in the past,
Yeah.
you know, board members would get called out to kind of calm down the situation.
Yeah.
I don't wanna say resolve it, but kind of calm down the situation, and sort of be there to talk to
And
kind
kind
of
of
party
taking
people.
chief judge roles in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That seemed to be what the expectation was, and that's clearly not a good idea.
Right, so I mean, that is one thing that I would say, like, as, for early voting, because it's gonna get intense during early voting as well, is making sure that the site manager goes out and is sort of every morning talking to the electioneers. Because, you know, these are all the same folks, the people that are working early voting are also probably gonna be working on election day or whatever. And, you know, even, there was one time that the guy who was setting up the tents for the Republican Party, when I was a site manager, came out and introduced himself to me. And so that was the person that, you know, so I then had a contact that I could deal with at that point in time. So, I mean, I would even suggest that, like, when you talk to the party chairs, go ahead and have the people who are setting up the tents introduce themselves to the site managers, because then the site manager knows who to be looking for and who to talk
And we
to.
can also relay to them where they need to set their tents and,
Yeah,
you know, the better place to set them.
It also just sets up a more friendly
Yes.
atmosphere, which is what
yeah.
you want.
It's less antagonistic.
Because we, you know, they're allowed to be out there
Yeah.
and we need to work together.
Right,
And that's, and you're.
They have a different role with the voter than we have.
Yeah, well, your hope is that their goal is the same thing, making sure, but you will have, as Frank said, there may be, you will have people out there, instigators, that are gonna try to start something, because they know if they start something, it'll bring media attention or cause interruptions.
And it causes people to be afraid.
And then, yeah, exactly, and in that situation, that's when we have, you know, we've trained our poll workers and our site managers, you got your emergency plan in place, you call for the elections chair, that kind of stuff. We hope to get to that, but, you know,
Right.
you're there to kind of be nice to them and tell them, but at the same time, your job is not to be the one that,
no, yeah, exactly.
you put yourself in the fray of things, you know.
And it's
Call
not,
the office.
and now it's not
Call
just
the-
it's inside the polling place now. There's some, I think throughout the state, they had some issues with some observers. We
Oh,
were
really?
fortunate enough to be having, because we had to do a survey. We sent a
We didn't have
survey.
any observers at all.
We didn't have any issues with
No.
any observers, but, they sent a survey out for the directors to complete if you had any issues, because they want to relay better information to the parties, I guess, and also to the observers of their conduct and how they conduct themselves inside of the polling place. So obviously they had issues in some places, but we didn't have any, so, I was thankful for that, so I don't know if, I guess they wanna ward it off before it begins, you know, for November.
Okay. Any final thoughts from anyone?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second.
I said.
All in favor?
Uh,
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.